Yet I'm giving up on the three clowns that run the show. Yet I'm giving up on the three clowns that run the show. Here we go. Yet I'm giving up on the three clowns that run the show.
There we go. We got that working. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of SEO Fight Club. I am just saying hello in the chat and asking people to ask questions and be sure to ask early because some shows we don't get to all the questions. So if it's important, feel free to ask away and ask early. You can also suggest topics. It doesn't have to be a question. If you just want to know about some specific aspect of SEO, uh, go for it, Um, so, all right, with that, I am having a little bit of technical difficulty. I've been traveling the past week, and my keyboard doesn't want to work this morning, so I haven't been able to diagnose that yet. So it's a little slow for me to type. But with that, I want to talk about something. So many of you will remember that Clint Butler, for years, was a co-host on SEO Fight Club. So if you go back through the archives, you'll see that Clint is in almost all of the early episodes. So he is given freely to this community and has never asked for anything in return and has always given his best advice to everyone. His wife has cancer, and the expenses of that are mounting because not all things are covered. And very generously, Elizabeth Samuels and Terry Samuels, I suspect, because they do everything together. It's really endearing. They set up this GoFundMe to help Clint and Kim. And so I have personally donated. I'm on the list. A lot of SEOs have. If if you've ever benefited from Clint's wisdom, and I suspect just about everybody who's been a long-term watcher of the show has, I ask you to uh, please consider giving what you can. So don't go beyond your means, but if you can spare 20 bucks, awesome. You know, you don't have to be the biggest donor. We're pretty close to achieving our goal already. It would mean the world to Clint and Kim, as well as anybody who knows Clint and Kim, if you would consider helping them. So I'm just going to leave this up. Feel free to use the QR code if you want to get there with your phone, and we will talk about SEO. I see one question about how to get an invoice for Cora, and I'm behind on my support because I was traveling all last week, so I suspect this is one of the few inquiries I also have waiting in my Skype queue. The way it works, there's a URL you can go to, you insert your PayPal subscription ID, which I can help you look up, and that'll give you your payment history in the form of transaction receipts. That may or may not be what your country needs because there are different requirements, but it's the best I got. It's all the information I have from PayPal. So if you're one of those requests in my Skype waiting for a response, I plan to get to that after the show. If not, feel free to reach out to me on Skype and I will help you get any of the information I have. All right. Um, with that, let's talk about
Well, first, somebody was at a conference this past week. What do you have for us from that? You were in Vegas, a big lineup there. You were one of the speakers, you know. Clue the rest of us mere mortals in.
All right. So one of the things that this particular conference does is they make you sign an NDA to not share other people's info.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't talk about any specifics of what golden nuggets were dropped by other people. And so this show is pretty amazing for the golden nugget drops. And I will share one of my own, and it's a pretty interesting one. So one second. Let's see. Oh, damn it, my keyboard's not working.
So SEO Tool Lab is having a keyboard strike.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It just stopped when I came home. So, one of the things I shared is that I am building new SEO tests, and they're a different kind of SEO tests. These are tests that are coded to automatically repeat. So every day, these tests are reconducted, and we get up to date information. Because the problem with SEO testing is that you run your tests, you learn something new, and then time goes on, and you wonder more and more if it still applies, if it's still true. So tests, they expire, they go stale, and they cause a lot of doubt and confusion. And so the tests that I want to run anymore, I want to build in a way that they conduct themselves in perpetuity. And so that's how I'm engineering my SEO tests now is there's something that I can always go see how they're performing this morning. And one of the and I have so far, I'm planning on growing this. I have 178 different tests that are running each and every day. And I'm going to be adding more and more to this set. So one of the types of tests I have prototyped here are the canaries in the coal mine. And so effectively, if you think about this reference, so miners would go down into the coal mine, there might be odorless gases that would kill you. So they would bring down canaries because the canaries would die quickly and maybe give them enough of a warning to get out of the mine before dying themselves. And so I'm taking this principle of canaries in a coal mine and applying it to SEO. So I have keyword stuffing examples, nothing but schema, very slow page renders, stealth SEO, keyword stuffed lorem ipsum, and I have representative examples of these things. All right. And then I can go and check out how they're performing on a day by day basis. So it's kind of using rank tracking technology to see if any action has been taken towards a class of SEO practice.
So if Google, for example, were to decide, hey, pages that have a certain percentage of lorem ipsum, we're just going to take them out of the index and say that they're not ready for prime time, your canaries would die.
Yes, exactly. And so I could make things, I could make canaries for uh, keywords and hidden divs or white text on a white background. And if Google ever fixes any of these things, we'd see those cohorts get disrupted. The other cool thing about this is that I don't have to share URLs with this. So, one of the common problems with testing is, there's always this thing where you might have to show too much. You have to show search results. You have to show the web pages. And no, in this case, I keep that all anonymized. And people might say, well, why do you do that? I do that because those are my petri dishes. And in biology and chemistry, I have to share how I conduct things. I have to share the results I'm seeing so that you can experiment and see if you get the same outcomes. But I do not have to give you my petri dishes.
So I can't
That's
stick my
not part of
fingers
it.
in your petri dishes. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. So you do not get to handle my petri dishes. In SEO, your test URLs are your petri dishes. So I don't want people corrupting or sabotaging the system. So I keep the URLs anonymous. And so you can see that there's a chart for each canary. Some of these canaries are not good for testing. Like this one keeps falling out of search. This canary was unhealthy to begin with. So it's probably not a great one to monitor. And in time, we'll have to differentiate healthy canaries from sickly canaries for what we actually want to monitor. Here's a really good one. And this is keyword tuned lorem ipsum. So this is rhinoplasty plano. After all the updates, the helpful content update, numerous web spam updates, numerous core updates, still works. Nothing changed. And so any day that I want to see, has anything fundamentally changed with how search works? I can come check this dashboard and know that all the fundamentals are still in place. All
I
right.
think
So
the nice thing, because I watch you develop this technology. The thing that's nice about it is, you just keep having theories and examples. So we could sit there and say, hey, our cloud page is a problem. Well, all right, let's find some cloud pages that are ranking and throw them into the database and just track them over time. And if, Google decides, hey, clouds are dead, on a particular day or two, you would see all of your canaries just drop out of the index. And it becomes a very easy way of saying, what's been hit of the things that you're tracking here.
yep. And so that's kind of the goal, is to see, are the canaries alive and well, or are the canaries dying? And I have a few bugs in here, like when it drops out, the rank position reports is 100. So I gotta figure out the dead canary count, because technically when they drop out, they should be dead. So we know the total canaries and alive canaries, and I got a bug to fix here. So it's a work in progress, but the data's in there. You can see the rankings on them. You can see that it's checking them daily. This is another one where we're finding out, will it index? So we've taken a test keyword, and in this example, I use this test keyword, the ERUFYGSDJHGFDSJG, and that becomes a test keyword, and it would go in one of these tags, like the sub tag. If that test keyword becomes findable in search, then we say yes, it will index. That keyword becomes findable on our test page in search. So indexing occurred. There are zones of a page where you put a test keyword in those zones and they do not become findable. and Google can change what parts of the page are in and out of play. And we call those types of changes a zoning update, a different kind of SEO update that most SEOs don't realize is out there and is even a possibility. One of the big things about the zoning update is sometimes they catch people off guard on things that they're using. Because I know that Terry Power, who is on the session today, historically, he's been a big fan of using the template tag. And recently, past 6 to 10 months or so, template tag went on the no index list. And so if he was over relying on that tag for his SEO, that could be problematic for him. So it's important to keep up with these zoning laws. So I've created a section that is retesting the zoning daily. And so that's one of the nugget drops from SEO Rockstars. So you can probably imagine what the whole conference was like. So it was pretty awesome. Any thoughts on Will It Index?
I like it. It's because it's live, it's daily. You always hear these like Google major updates, the core updates, but there's, hundreds of minor updates that, change things. And this is one of the ways of saying, hey, I'm seeing a little weirdness with, my site. I used a lot of, these type of tags, and it's not ranking as well, or it's ranking better. And then you can see, well, the no's have turned to yeses, or the yeses have turned to no's. That might be one of the places you want to first look, run a core report and see if the people that have moved up in your place, have a different set of tags, different set of HTML that might be helping them.
Yeah, exactly. There's a question if CSS class names index, and I'm trying to remember if I had that in here. I know I've tested it in the past and the answer was no, but I probably have to add it to the test group. Yeah, it looks like I have to add class attributes. The only HTML attribute that is do index that I currently monitor is the alt attribute on images. So it seems to be the only one. So with that, I'll get class attributes added back in here. That was an oversight on my part. But my recollection and my hunch is that the image alt attribute is the only HTML attribute that'll index a keyword. And there were a lot of tests I tried doing for this that didn't work out, or didn't work out in time. And so I did like 150 tests on OCR, like how much contrast does the font color matter? How much does font size matter? How much rotation in the text before it does an index? I did a bunch of things like that, and absolutely none of them worked, which doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means it's inconclusive, because as Lee found in testing, Google might only do this once or twice a year. So if I don't get Google's processing time within the time frame I've conducted the test, I wouldn't know the answer if it works or not. So, I did it at the wrong time. So I'm letting those live and hoping that, they produce a result at some point in the future. Another one, I went through all of the meta fields and image data, the places where you can put text information about a photograph into the file format meta fields. And there's like 150 of them according to like Photoshop. And so I put unique test keywords in every single piece of metadata in an image, and I'm waiting to see if any of those pop up. So there's, another 150 tests there. And if it ever produces a result, then I'll get it automated into the test site and we'll have it going forward. Another interesting thing is, will it boost? And what that means is we're looking at these zones of will it index, the yeses and the nos, and saying, will keyword density in these zones boost the ranking, whether they index or not? And I'll give you one more nugget drop, but I'm not going to be specific. Some of the nos boost. Okay. So just know that even though they can't index a keyword by themselves, they still can influence your ranking in some cases, not all cases. So it's important to do independent will it boost testing to find out which of these things will actually change ranking if you apply keyword density and topical relevancy inside the tags. And so I ran a test and I got an outcome that was shocking, but about 5 or 6 weeks later, all of my will it boost tests vanished. So I have to repeat it because I don't know if the result held up. And the result I saw indicated that for the first time ever in my testing, that keyword density might have a sweet spot. And so what that kind of means is that 20% density is better than 1% density, but 1% density is better than 40% density. So there's a saddle point somewhere in there that's optimal for tuning keyword density. And I can't prove it until I get a test that can last over time. And so I have to repeat that test. So I would call it inconclusive still. It was really interesting. It was that many of these zones, there were 2 outcomes. Many of these zones would either show the saddle point or they'd show the test pages in the order they were submitted, which means no factor. Age was the only thing Google had. And so when I saw a saddle point on large amounts of these, I was like, oh my. Because if you remember about 15 years ago, Matt Cutts said, if you keep repeating a word on a page, it helps you, but eventually there's a point it hurts you. Well, that's always been untrue until I saw that result. And so it's got me a little bit worried that Matt Cutts, 15 years later is finally correct. So it's a possibility. It needs retesting.
But for the last 14 and a half years, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Any thoughts on any of that?
No, I think it's great. The thing that you hit on, which I think people need to realize is, if you test this, I can tell you, oh, I tested that in, 2018. And, 1 month after I tested it, Google may have changed and it, may no longer have been valid, for the past 4+ years. So keeping that, those tests updated, keep rerunning them to make sure that they're still valid is always an important thing to do. So research like this, where it's, just continually just taking a look down there and saying, hey, are there any major changes that we can identify, are incredibly valuable to the community.
This is a game changer. Ted, will there ever be a will it boost section on that site or?
Yeah, once I have stable tests that don't disappear on me, absolutely. And yeah, I want to put even more tests on there. And I want to add a lot more cohorts in the canaries in the coal mine. So if you have examples of things that should not rank but do, and you would like to help the effort, I will keep your examples hidden, so I won't expose the URLs, but I'll create a cluster in the database so that we can track them in the system. And so other SEOs are going to share some examples of things that shouldn't rank but do, and we're going to add them into the system. And if you have some good examples and you want to participate, I'll even give you credit on the site for sharing the examples. So keep that in mind that it takes a village to really do this well. So uh, any help you have on that front would be great. Reach out to me on Skype. My Skype handle is Ted Kubaitis, and it's all one word, all lowercase. All right. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask Lee, how's the training group so far? How's it going?
We wrapped up. So, our next training group will be in February. It was a lot of fun, especially since a good chunk of the training was during core update, which is always fun to, get some real world volatility adding to the normal stuff. But it was good, and it was a lot of fun. So we learned a lot.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're interested in being in the next round of Lee's training, a lot of people highly recommend it. It's testedseotraining.com. I recommend you go through some of the testimonials and check it out, see what results people get. And it's different than a course because it's 8 weeks of get a lesson, take what you learned, apply it to a site you're trying to rank, and then everybody comes back at the next lesson and talks about the results they got. So it's a real rubber meeting the road. And if you're not getting results, and everybody says, well, let's take a look at that, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a really cool thing. And Lee goes over a lot of the research and test results on why we do some of the things we do. And it's a really cool system. It's not for everybody. He doesn't accept everybody. You have to be able to uh, get a return on it because it's not the cheapest training out there. So it's not for beginners. It's for typically established SEOs who already have a client roster to help them do better with their client roster.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some questions here. Let's see. Nathan says, I've been testing adding a phone number in the title tag for every local silo I'm building. That's interesting. All the way back to the early days in SEO, phone numbers were a ranking factor. And in fact, one of the exploits in the early days of Google was just having a giant web page full of phone numbers. Phone numbers an interesting one. There is a precedent for it being an exploitable factor.
What's also still in the search Google Search Essentials, it's one of the spam don't do that. It's specifically called out there. So it probably still works.
Yeah. But an honest phone number in a hot zone of the page, that's a worthy test, in my opinion. Let's see. CTR seems to be down, but call volume is up. Well, that's great because people see the number and want to call it. So yeah, it's better if you get the lead even before winning the click. You know, that's kind of the ultimate CTA conversion.
Mhm.
So yeah, good to know. Rankings and traffic have never been higher than right now. What do you think? Well, I know that Google said they released some people from the helpful content update. I know that Derek Iwaziuk talked about a case study where somebody was released from the helpful content update. So, I think that there's something there, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something you did. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. The first part of that, it makes sense. Putting your phone number in the title tag where it's there. So if I just go in, I don't have to click because a lot of people are becoming wary of, once I click on your site, then I can't get your damn ads out of my Facebook feed and everywhere else that I go. So I don't want you following me around. But if I can just dial, 555, 1274 or whatever, and get you on the phone and get you out here to fix my roof, that's awesome. That's a great win. Um, in terms of things bouncing up and down, yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about the never-ending volatility. It didn't seem to end after the last update ended. It seemed to stay high all the way through, and now we just started the November core update, so that's not going to help bring the volatility down. So a lot of people are reporting movement on their websites in a lot of directions, and I'm not sure how you'd parse out, if it was something that you did, Google did, or just random movement right now while the system is in a state of flux.
One thing I can say is that yesterday around 1 p.m. Eastern time is when one of the new bots rolled out. So we saw that in all of our logs across all of our sites. So Google wasn't lying. Something definitely did start happening. I would expect to see a new bot appear at some point in the next 7 to 10 days. They seem to do that. They do their announcement, bot comes out, and then after a week they change the bot again. Um, wasn't a major build number though, which I find interesting. Typically, their major build numbers coincide with the core updates, and I did not see that yet. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I tend to find that the version numbers of things are kind of arbitrary. Somebody decides to increment it at some point, but what's in a minor number, what's in a major number, minors can be bigger than majors. It's just something a developer is picking.
Very
Um,
possibly.
Let's see. Nathan says, worth noting, we add local business and service schema to each of these pages in the silo using the same phone number. That's good. I know that in local, Google likes multiple dimensions of agreement. So if you claim a phone number in the profile, it ought to match a phone number on the website. It ought to match a phone number in the schema. It ought to match a phone number in the citations. Um, so that's generally a good practice if you can do it. I know with call tracking, you sometimes can't do all of that. It's not the end of the world if you have a factor you can't compete on. There's ways to rank without any given factor. Um, with the service schema, we know that the description fields in those should be very verbose. So, very powerful schema to use. Don't use short description and short text fields in those schema elements. You definitely want to go very on topic, lots of variations, lots of relevant entities in those fields. Let's see. Do you have a plan to add the CSS class name? Yeah, I'll fix that oversight. Um, what do you think of ChatGPT search? How can we rank in those results? I don't know the best practices yet, but I do know that a lot of websites out there are blocking uh, bots heavily. Any bot they don't recognize, they're blocking it. And so if you are one of those website operators who's blocking, everything but Google and Bing, you're also blocking Common Crawl, which is the bot that gets you into all these AI training sets. And so you probably need to err on the other side of caution going forward if you want to be represented uh, in the training set for AI. Now, I know with ChatGPT search, there's a live aspect to it. And in those cases, it feels to me like it's kind of a special type of prompt. And so we would need to see that special type of prompt become really popular in order for it to be effective. Um, I tried a few, and what was good about it was I was able to get current information off of web pages and search results. I wasn't able to get a good representative sample of the search results to work with. So it seems a little bit limited in its ability to crawl and to increase the scope of the search results. Um, what I typically find is that for good marketing analysis, you typically want to reliably get 100 search results out of a system. So I kind of want to test the bounds and see if we can do that. Because if you can get 100 search results, then we can start doing some correlations with confidence. If all we're going to get is 15, then there's not a lot of confidence in what we're correlating. And so, we have to do some analysis of this system and find out, is this something we can work with mathematically, or is it just kind of a deluxe featured snippet? What do you think, Lee?
The interesting thing about all of these search, functions and, some of the search AIs like, Perplexity and some of the others out there, generally speaking, what we found is that they pull from, either Google or Bing. So largely the way that you get them to give you your answers, at least today, is you rank on page 1 of Google or Bing, and then you're in consideration for the, for the response pool. So not a lot. I mean, now that could change over time, if Microsoft or Google starts to charge or limit access to for, those particular tools, then you've got to go to another data set, the Common Crawl data set. But the Common Crawl data set, is not, to my knowledge, is not rank ordered. So, it's got information in there, but how reliable is it going to be if you're looking for the best roofer in, Oklahoma City? It's everybody's in there. So then it would be, how do you get into that particular, training set? And that we don't know, not at this time.
So yeah, it's something worth playing with, but I don't think we're quite there yet for best practices. Let's see. What are the best ways to boost keyword density? Well, you kind of have two options. You can either add more keywords to the page, or you could eliminate irrelevant text from the page. So you can boost it with addition, or you could boost it with subtraction, because keyword density is the ratio between your relevant terms and the overall word count. Um, there's also this concept of pruning the content on the page, where it's like this 50-50 operation where half the people that do it say their rankings go up and half the people that do it say their rankings go down, and a few people say it didn't do anything. Um, Keep in mind that when you just blindly take a part of the page and delete it, you are randomly adjusting keyword density. So it kind of makes sense that it's a 50-50 operation to prune content off of a page if you do it blindly. So you want to kind of get rid of parts of the page that are not topical and not keyword rich and not entity rich. The other thing about keyword density is that if you don't want to tune for it twice, you do that last. And if you're using a factor measurement software like Cora, usually the act of addressing everything else except keyword density fixes your density along the way. So if you do the everything else regarding entities and variations, you might not have to tune your keyword density. That just might happen in the process of fixing those deficits. What do you think, Lee?
One of the things that I always advise people when they're looking for this, because it is a struggle at times, because you have a certain amount of content on the page, and as you've pointed out, numerous times, Ted, after a certain point, like 12.5% density or higher, it starts to sound like hard. It's hard to be readable English and stuff like that. So what I advise people to do in those cases is I run a core report and I'll see, how are my competitors doing it? Where are they doing it? It's typically somewhere under the page. Are they utilizing, schema? Are they utilizing images? Are they utilizing other particular things? How are they getting it done? And then I just borrow those ideas. So if they're doing it in schema, okay, how are they doing it in the schema? All right, I'll implement that in my schema, or I'll implement schema, for example. So there's a lot of different ways. So if other people are doing it and they're beating you, just reverse engineer how they're doing it. Take it, the competitors on page one that are doing it the best, kind of look across them and say, hey, most of them are doing it using this or that. So I'm gonna do that too.
One of the issues I run across a lot with enterprise sites is it's a problem a lot of folks, maybe smaller sites, don't have, but we'll often have a lot of boilerplate, a lot of just stuff on the page that doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't need to be there, but it doesn't support the page. It's just content that ends up on all our pages, or ads, or commenting, or whatever.
Mhm.
We often can't remove that stuff, so we end up having to add more content to the page. So to Ted's point, it's a ratio. So we have X number of words, we have to have X times 2 number of words so that the ratio starts getting better. Now, Lee, you've mentioned this before in the past, that someone will do an article, and this is on the same kind of subject about what is the focus of your page. Because I'll look at pages on an enterprise site where the focus looks like it's all about privacy policies, when it's not. It's a category page, but our privacy policy or some kind of legal disclaimer is so big it ends up being what the page is about. But folks do that with smaller sites too. If you're a plumber in Cleveland and you've heard that, oh, I need to put a lot of Cleveland words on my page, before you know it, your page isn't about being a plumber, it's about being Cleveland. So I always want to make sure you focus what you're, be aware of what your focus of the page is, and that you're not, in an attempt to add all these entities and LSI words and TFI or whatever other terms you want to add, you end up de-optimizing your page on yourself.
Good point.
Yeah, one other tip I'll look at is this. If you look at your competitors on page one, who's got the lowest keyword density? Chances are it's less than yours. And what did they do to overcome the lack of keyword density? Was it links? Was it, some other tactic? Because you don't always have to match people factor for factor. There's a lot of ways to get the points necessary to, rank on page one.
Let's see. do you consider tuned lorem ipsum a thing that ranks but shouldn't? I kind of do because Google knows about it and Google punished someone for doing it manually, made a big example of them. And then they never fixed the glitch.
Yeah, they also modified the guidelines to specifically call that out.
And everyone on Signals Lab is going to say that Google's AI is so smart it can handle that already, which is untrue. And Google hires the best and brightest, and they would have thought of that already, which is untrue. Um, what we actually see when we monitor these things is things like white text on a white background still works. Text hidden in a div still works. Keyword stuffing still works. And it's not that it works again, it never stopped working. It's worked since 2004. So when people laugh at SEO saying, "What is this, 2004?" It's like, yes, it never stopped working.
Mhm.
I guess it pays to test. Um,
Yeah, and the research that we've done shows that keyword densities have gone up in the last few years, not down, when you're looking at, page one averages and things like that. So, it's baked into the algorithm hard.
and after all those updates, the rhinoplasty plano style pages still rank number one. I have it in my data. You can go see the ranking data. Some of those things reliably rank number one today. So, I mean, make of that what you will. Um, let's see. Sending prayers to Kim. Yes. If there are no more questions. Oh, there are more questions. All right. Let's see. When did the core update begin? That was a couple days ago, right?
Yesterday, I think, is when they announced it.
Yeah.
May have been today, but I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, they announced it yesterday.
Let's see. Let's say I have an e-commerce website with over 10,000 products. If I generate schema based on JavaScript rendering schema template, extract them, and upload as an HTML template, would it result in a significant difference since I'm uploading them as HTML and doesn't need the JS rendering? Um, there's a lot in there, and oftentimes when you do clever web development, it depends on how you implement it. So it's possible, like if you're doing something akin to server-side rendering and serving up a cached version of what is, dynamically drawn by web services, that would be beneficial. But it's hard to know, not seeing it. I would say conduct a test. If something is indexable, it is typically testable within a few days if your website's in good standing with Google. So you could go to one of those things. Well, not with schema though. That's the problem. Um,
Well, he's thinking about it at a page level, I believe. So you could, implement it, one way on some of the pages, one way on the other pages, and leave some pages alone and just kind of see what the impact is.
yeah, see if there's an average increase. What I will say is the things you want to be you want to make sure that you do proper schema. So don't invent schema that nobody uses. Be sure you do it the way that schema.org recommends. Um, The other thing is the description and text fields you want to be verbose and on topic with. So make sure they have both variations, exact match, and as well as relevant entities. Um, and you kind of want to be complete in your schema. So, don't try to use a WordPress plugin to do it. You want to do better than that. Let's see, what's a good tool for measuring keyword density? Uh, well, a good tool for measuring keyword density is going to be difficult to find. And the reason that's the case is that there are 8 million different ways to calculate density. So when you start talking about keyword density, you have to ask people how they calculated it, because it's a ratio of the relevant words to the overall word count. Is that the exact match to word count, or is that the exact match plus variations against the word count? Is that the exact match, variations, and most important topically relevant entities versus the word count? So right there, you have different ways of calculating it.
Well,
And then you have to ask,
hold on just a second, Ted. You can simplify it down even further just to show the complexity. Which words count? When you just forget the numerator, just the denominator, because we're all assuming, oh, word count is what you see on the page, right?
yep,
But we find that that's not the case necessarily. Words in different zones of the HTML that don't appear on the page also seem to, have that impact. And so even your will it index, will it boost type of testing, which of those zones, words in which of those zones get counted towards the keyword or just the total word count? We don't know fully that, but as SEOs, we can't even agree on that. So, forget the calculation. It's like you can't even get which ones are keywords and which ones are the words, the total words. There's a lot of different ways of doing that. As you said, 8 million different ways.
yep. Like, for example, you could ask someone, well, do you include the title text in your match words? And it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Title's important. What about the meta description? Oh, well, Google said meta description is good, so I suppose. What about meta keywords? Oh, no, we never touch meta keywords because that's stupid. You see how you're creating your own custom formula going zone by zone? And so, what about class attribute names? No, we wouldn't use those. What about image alt text? So as you say yes and no to all these questions, you're making your own formula. And the problem with all the keyword density tools out there is none of them share the formula they use. So it's always apples to oranges. So my advice is find a tool that kind of works for you and stick with that one tool, because that way you'll have an understanding of what you need based on that tool's formula. Um, let's see.
She also goes down further and says, for the keyword density question, one of my issues is that the tools that I've been using does not seem to read it within schema. So I don't know if how Quora handles that specifically.
See, we have Clint here today, and he's saying cough, cough, bullshit, cough, cough, in regards to Google AI being able to do anything against Lorem. Yeah, if Google was gonna fix it, they would have done it by now. Um, let's see, he says you'll only see an impact if Google isn't rendering JavaScript, assuming your schema is good. So that's in response to the other question. Um, let's see. JP says, with exception of Walmart, you should be minimizing CSR as much as possible. What does CSR stand for again?
I think it means client-side rendering.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you should be minimizing client side. Absolutely agree with that. And the reason I agree with that isn't that server side rendering doesn't work. It absolutely does work, but it requires a level of expertise and diligence that most people don't maintain over time. So if you set up server side rendering to solve the problem, it is often a ticking time bomb because when you lose the person who set it up, or if you have people in the organization who don't understand it, they can break it quite easily. So it's kind of a fragile technical solution to the problem. And so, yeah, in general, I try to steer people away from web service frameworks that query content to then draw on the page because it's a lot more tricky than it used to be even because now in the past you had 20 seconds after document ready to draw to the page and Google would pick up those changes and index them. Now you have 4 seconds after document ready. And so your your framework website needs to be very fast and very proficient, and your server side rendering needs to be very stable and reliably so. And so that's a lot to ask for out of a smaller organization. So I often will not recommend that route for smaller businesses. You're biting off more than you can chew. Um, Let's see, for the keyword density question, one of my issues is that the tools I've been using do not seem to read it within the schema. Yes, and I'm working on fixing that in my software too, because uh, do you include keywords and JavaScript tags? Yes or no? Yeah. And so it's another decision point on how it's calculated. And we're finding that some schema fields can impact the keyword density beneficially. So those description fields, for example. And so it looks like they do need to be included. So yeah, your observation is correct and your concern is warranted. Um, let's see. And that looks like all the questions we have. So if you have any last moment question, now's your chance to get it in there. Otherwise, we are going to remind everyone to please consider donating to Clint's GoFundMe. We are all rooting for them to kick cancer's ass because cancer needs the shit kicked out of it. So help support our past co-host on the show. Be sure to check out and subscribe to SEO This Week. That's another way you can help Clint. And we will be back every week and we will give you updates. We're very close to the fundraising goal. We'd love to exceed it. So please, at any level, if it's $5, that's showing support. And that's all we ask. All right. Any final words?
No.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.